Hey, what's up gamers? You have Tiger Chainsaw here. In 2018, I finally picked up the PSP, and it was way overdue to get into my collection. Since then, I have picked up so many awesome PSP games, and I have played through a ton of them. Today, I am discussing the underrated hidden gems of the PSP. I love this little handheld, and I've got a lot of great memories with these games. Now, if this is your first time on my channel, or if you just haven't yet, make sure you hit that sub button to watch plenty of retro video game content and other hidden gem video game lists. Alright, let's fire up our PSP and jump into these hidden gems on the PSP. Let's kick this PSP Hidden Gems list off with a video game that was based on a book. The first game is going to be Brave Story New Traveler, and I got this game into my collection because it always intrigued me because the cover is horizontal, it's not vertical, and so that always kind of caught my eye, and I am so glad I got this into my collection. This is a wonderful JRPG that I don't hear anyone talk about. It's not just saving the world from destruction and crystals. It tells a really touching story of friendship between a young boy and a young girl who has fallen sick. The young boy has to go to another dimension, and he has to do all of these missions and these quests to help heal this girl that's his friend. And along the way, he meets some really fun characters. There's great boss fights, and some of the dialogue and the interactions between characters are hilarious. I loved the writing in this. It really caught me off guard how much I enjoyed this game. So if you're looking for a JRPG with a touching story, really fun characters, and awesome combat filled with boss fights, Brave Story New Traveler isn't just a game to get into your collection, it's a game you need to play. This is a hidden gem. Up next is a wacky, weird golf game that I just cannot stop playing. I've already done an in-depth review on Pena Fantasy Golf, and it is again going on my hidden gems list because it's that good. If you love arcade golf, this is going to give you a really unique game with a really good story. The gist of it is a dark lord is trying to take over the world, and the only way that you can defeat him and save the world of Pena is by a round of golf. Yes, it sounds crazy, yes, it's weird, and yes, it's so much fun. I love the girls in this game. There's a lot of curves on the courses, if you get my drift, and Pena Fantasy Golf is really fun to pick up and play for 10 minutes, or you can pick it up and play it for 3 hours. I'm not joking when I tell you guys that the story kept me playing this game. It's not a boring story, and there's lots of character interactions with each other. The humor is really good in this game, and the characters are really fun to customize. There's a lot of stuff that goes into playing the game of golf, whether that's customizing your golf set, your skill points, learning different trick shots, and of course changing out your balls. Do not sleep on Pena Fantasy Golf. This is an awesome game with really good presentation and really fun arcade golf. Let's talk about the third entry in the Parasite Eve universe, which is going to be the third birthday. So I have mixed feelings on this game, and the more I think about it, the more positive feelings I have toward the third birthday. If you took out the IP of Parasite Eve and you had this as a standalone game, I would have given it like a 9 out of 10. This is a really fun game with all of the fast-paced action, guns blazing gameplay that this has to offer. There's boss fights, there's a lot of different ways of killing your enemies, and the way that you do it is you transport from body to body, and as long as you have someone on the battlefield, you will be alive in order to progress through the level. Now, Parasite Eve is tied into this game, and I just don't care for the story. The first Parasite Eve is very near and dear to my heart, and so I was a little bit disappointed with the direction of the franchise with the third birthday. It ties into the series, I don't think it's necessary, so if you go into this and you picture it as a fresh IP, don't associate it with Parasite Eve, and you're gonna have a blast with this. The gameplay is that good. So look past the story, enjoy all of the immersive gunplay that this game has to offer. The third birthday can be overlooked and it can be looked down on with critics, but it's a pretty good game just solely based on the gameplay. This next entry on my list may surprise some of you, or at least I hope it does. When I started collecting for the PSP, I started going after all the Final Fantasy titles in the library, and there's quite a few of them. But what I was noticing was I picked up Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy II, and Final Fantasy IV, but there was no 3. It was never released in North America. But I do have Final Fantasy III, the Japanese version, and guess what? It plays entirely in English, and it's worth it. You guys must think I am crazy for including a Final Fantasy hidden gem on the PSP, but it's true, and I don't think it's well known. You can play Final Fantasy III on the PSP even though it came out in Japan only. Now this is the true Final Fantasy III that was released in Japan. This isn't going to be the Final Fantasy III version that we received. This is the story about orphans coming together and saving the world. Now, I don't really like the chibi style graphics. I've never been a fan of that style of graphics. I would prefer the pixel art, but to have Final Fantasy III in my collection on the PSP was worth it. So if you are a big Final Fantasy fan and you want to get the entire Final Fantasy collection on the PSP, do not overlook Final Fantasy III, the Japanese version. That's the only version that you are going to get, but as I said, you can play the entire thing with English translation, and it works great. Final Fantasy III was a lot of fun for me to play through on my PSP. Cover art plays such a key role in the games that I pick up. I always get intrigued by covers that I've never seen before or covers that have really cool artwork, and that's exactly what happened when I picked up Gladiator Begins. So something I didn't know is that this is actually a sequel to Colosseum Road to Freedom that was on the PS2. As I said, this has an awesome cover and it made me buy the game, even though when I looked it up, it did not get the best of reviews. But I played it myself and I came away with the feeling that this was a better game than the critics give it. You might think of this as a hack and slash game, and yeah, you can use a shield, but if you know me, I'm just gonna tank it. But there's lots of blood, lots of gore. And yeah, it's a little bit rough around the edges, but it's just dumb fun. The cool thing about this game is that there are tons of different fighting styles for you to choose from. Your gladiator is going to be customizable with the equipment and the weapons, and guess what? There are multiple endings depending on how you progress through this game. It was really fun to power up my gladiator and make my way through this game. Now this game isn't special by any means, as I said, it's around the average mark, but it never gets brought up, and I thought I would shed some light on this PSP hidden gem. Gladiator Begins will satisfy your bloodlust for spilling blood on the Colosseum floor. Let's talk about a game that could have been straight from an 80s action movie. That's gonna be Pursuit Force. And you are gonna love this game if you like high-speed car chases and solving cases. This game has tons of fast-paced action, and in some parts, it can be a little bit challenging. Honestly, it's pretty much one big action scene movie where you live out your fantasy of high-speed car chases and shootouts. Whether you're driving cars or boats or helicopters, you're gonna be chasing the bad guys down. And there's even a portion that you can hop from vehicle to vehicle. It's just crazy. Now the cutscenes are pretty hilarious, and that's on purpose with how over the top this game is. The bad guys in this game kind of reminded me of the psychos in Borderlands, and I did double check. This came out in 2005, so I wonder if Borderlands drew any inspiration for the psychos based on some of these bad guys in Pursuit Force. If you love a good car chase and you love hopping from vehicle to vehicle and shooting the bad guy's vehicle, you need to check out Pursuit Force. This is a really good game. From a police car chase game to a cyberpunk story, let's check out Bounty Hounds. I love the atmosphere that they created in this game. It's so cyberpunk. And honestly, the music was really good, and it got me in that mindset that I was in the future when playing on my PSP. Essentially, you are a mercenary who takes orders and goes on missions stopping the bad guys, but what's really cool is how customizable your character is. From the weapons, the armor, the skill points, and the force skills, you can change all of that to suit your needs and your playstyle. And there's tons of weapons to choose from swords, hammers, axes, Gatling guns, shotguns, and even bigger guns than that. If you have a style of play, if you have a weapon of choice, Bounty Hounds is going to allow you to choose that style. And while the action and the gameplay is kind of average, just having that ability to customize your character and go out in a cyberpunk adventure taking down enemies was pretty fun for me. So I'm considering Bounty Hounds a hidden gem. If you guys thought I was crazy for putting a Final Fantasy hidden gem on this list, well, let me tell you, I'm gonna throw a Metal Gear Solid hidden gem on this. Okay, so Solid is not in the name, but I'm talking about Metal Gear Acid. This is one of the most unique games I have ever played. And yes, there is a sequel, and yes, I have that too. And yes, you should also play the sequel. This is a turn-based stealth strategy game, get this, based on cards. That's right, you draw cards to see what you can do for your next move. And it really works, and it's fun. It puts all of that fun into the Metal Gear universe with beautiful artwork. There is a learning curve, but once you learn it, like any card game, it's so much fun. Now you will still get a lot of dialogue in this game, but I just love the artwork of the characters. It's so beautiful. But during this game, you're going to be collecting cards, and there are so many to earn and draw and put into your deck, from characters to use, to weapons to use, to items to optimize your playthrough. This is a really unique game set in the Metal Gear universe. If you love Metal Gear, you have to get this game. Now, as I mentioned before in this video, a good cover art can really intrigue me, and that's exactly what happened when I picked up Mack, because it has a holographic cover. So I may surprise you guys when I say this is an air combat game with a plot that is not predictable. So what I mean by that is, you're not fighting a war in this game. The year is 2049, and robots and drones have pretty much replaced all of the man-flown warfighters that we've been using. So all of those warfighters are now on the black market, and a good pilot like yourself, well, I think you can make some pretty good money in the black market by racing and doing combat circuits. And that's exactly what Mack is all about. As mentioned, you're going to be doing a lot of racing and a lot of combat in this game. And both of them are really fun. This is a really cool arcade flight sim, whatever you want to call it. It's got a great mix of racing and combat. Something that's really good about this game are the controls. They're really smooth, and when I was playing this game, I didn't suffer from any slowdown, which makes flying all around on the screen so much more enjoyable. I was zooming by my enemies, zooming by the environments, on my way to first place, or avoiding missiles in the combat zone. Mack is a game that no one really talks about, and it's a lot of fun for arcade flight sim lovers.
Final lap.
Alright, let's wrap up this list of PSP hidden gems with probably the most obvious choice. Ah yes, everyone's pick for the ultimate PSP hidden gem. And honestly, for really good reason. Now before I get into the gameplay of Gene d'Arc, I need to tell you guys the story of how I got this game. Do you guys remember Craigslist? Sometimes I still use it because I still see video game deals on the site, and just by chance I picked up this game from Craigslist, but it was quite an adventure. I had the seller tell me to meet him at a Walmart parking lot, and it was around 11 p.m. It was raining, it was dark. He told me exactly what he was driving, and I still remember it to this day. It was a blue Subaru. Now, because I didn't know what the seller looked like, I didn't know what to expect. And so I found a blue Subaru, and I go up to it, I knock on the door, and I look through the window, and I see two elderly women who are just terrified. They're shaking, they think I'm gonna rob them, and I'm just kind of like, hey, I'm here for the PSP game. They roll down their windows, and I go, hi, are you the seller from Craigslist? And they're just like, no, like, what are you doing? I was like, my bad, like, I'll back off, I'm not gonna rob you. And then 2 minutes later, another blue Subaru comes in, and that was the seller of the PSP game. So, fun little story for everyone. Now back to the game. This is a turn-based strategy game set in medieval times with some historical aspects taken at liberty. The first thing that you probably will notice are the hand-drawn cutscenes in animation. This is incredible. This is so gorgeous. These are the types of details that when I see this in a game, I become mesmerized, I become hooked, I just have to keep playing it. Because when I see that amount of effort put into a game, it makes me want to play it even more. And yes, this probably is the best looking PSP game. But it's not just good looking, it's really fun and the gameplay rocks. You'll have plenty of skills to learn, it's fast paced, which is great for those who really don't enjoy turn-based strategy games. So if you don't enjoy those types of games, still give this one a shot because it is more fast-paced. But every move you make is critical, from the equipment, the placement of your allies, the skills that you choose to implement, from start to finish. This is one of the best PSP games. And I highly encourage you all to get this into your library. Whether you hear it from me or another list of PSP hidden gems, there's a very good reason that this game is on this list. So there you have it, my list of PSP hidden gems. Which one of them have you played before, or which one of them do you want to play now? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're there, let me know some PSP hidden gems from your list. I would love to get any that I don't own into my library. And while you're there, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel to watch plenty of retro video game content and other hidden gems video lists. Thanks for watching, happy gaming, and make sure you play a video game today.